Hi, hello guys, my name is Mia Marie and you are currently watching my Synastry Compatibility series where I go through all the 12 signs, sun signs, and how they get along. Now, as a general disclaimer, we reference so much more than just the sun sign for compatibility, but the importance of the sun and understanding someone's sun sign and accepting it and supporting it is that the sun sign describes the motives, the behaviors, the experiences that contribute to someone's sense of sanity. So we're not talking so much about what someone needs emotionally or how they flirt or what makes them great in bed, all of those very, romantic topics. We're talking about how to support someone's vitality, someone's sense of self, and someone's healing human journey. So keep in mind that this is just a gentle introduction and you can get so much more by booking a session with me or another fantastic astrologer. I hope you enjoy. Someone with their sun in Capricorn has a soul that came to Earth to learn that when you work productively, you learn patience, persistence, and perseverance. Now, something that not a lot of astrologers talk about, which I find completely baffling, is that Neptune was in Capricorn from 1984 until 1998. And this is a huge influence because yes, Capricorns are hard workers and they typically, stereotypically, archetypally know who they are and what they want to do. With Neptune here, you can actually get a character that has no idea who they are. It's almost as if they are Piscean, Capricornian characters. You're dealing with a Capricorn who was born in that time. You might notice that they have a hard time establishing an ego or seeing themselves clearly. There is this, it's almost as if when you take a shower and the mirror is fogged and you try to look at yourself, you can't see yourself. That is the Capricorn with Neptune on the sun. So back to Capricorn energy. Capricorn is the third earth sign. It is the most mature. It takes the security and the competence from Taurus. It takes the systems that Virgo has created and it goes, okay, how do we turn this into a company? How do we sell this? How do we market this? How do we create revenue? How do we provide for the masses? It's a universally oriented sign. These are typically like the bosses because they are focused on order of operations. They like things done in a specific way. They keep a list of things to do and they like to check those things off. They get off to being productive. Capricorn is naturally ruled by the planet Saturn, and that's the planet with the ring around it, which is perfect because Capricorn, Saturn energy, it's all about restriction, constriction, knowing boundaries, exercising boundaries, bending to authority, really wanting a position that gives you authority and power. And so oftentimes what you'll find with these people is it's hard for them to play and have fun, to experience joy, because if you're playing around all day, you're not going to be as productive, right? It goes against their motive to be persistent and patient and to persevere against all odds. It's thinking the long haul. What are the decisions that I can make every single day that will turn my life into a legacy? What is my great work? And that is something that will stick with Capricorn their whole lives. Now, something they may not realize is that some of their greatest work is going to be internal. It's going to be something that nobody else sees. They are in so many ways proving themselves to themselves, similar to Taurus, but on a greater scale. The stakes are so much higher. They're in the public eye. And along with that, they care a lot about how other people view them. They want to come off as professional and polished. They like their clothes like iron. They like neutrals, or they just like to give the look like they are all about their business. And if they don't, you can tell depression has many correlations with Saturn energy or Capricorn energy. And so that's their default. And when they're depressed, it's their body trying to scream at them like, this isn't working. This ego that you are working to accomplish. And as a preface, or for clarification, I don't demonize the ego. I think that everyone has one and it must serve a purpose, and the ego is trainable. That's the beauty. You can always train your ego to be in service to your soul. So I'm not slamming egos. Depression is always a call from the soul, and it's saying, I don't want to be this character anymore. I don't want to live this life anymore. I'm tapping out. And when you have that perspective, when you have that awareness, then you're able to adjust your schedule. And it will be something that you have to manage on the outside. And then as you do it, as you start moving your body through the adjustment in your schedule, you'll start to reconnect with yourself, or Capricorn will start to reconnect with themselves. It will also manifest by their habits and their behaviors. When they're not working, they'll work until they're exhausted, and then they'll come home and they'll want to drink or they'll want to smoke. They just want out. Okay, so Capricorns in relationships specifically, it is a duty. It is something that is similar to a job. They want to show up, and they want to show up every day, and they expect that you're going to show up every day. And more than that, they will exercise their own restrictions and expectations onto you. They want you to get on board with their schedule. They are a leadership sign. They're a cardinal sign. And so you will find that they really take you under their wing, and they want you guys to excel together. In my personal experience, I found that Capricorn does appreciate partnership, but it doesn't do the flings. It wants marriage. It wants kids. It wants the earthly representations of accomplishment. They are reliable. They are consistent. They are on top of it. They're on top of what you're doing, what you're not doing, what you should be doing. And they have an eye for things that are flawed, and they'll point it out to you. They can kind of have a more serious or stoic attitude towards life, and it's very matter of fact when you're with them. They have this dry quality to their personality that people can find endearing. Now, some deal breakers with Capricorn. If you are not thinking long term, if you don't want a serious relationship, if you don't want to be married or have children or buy a house or grow old together, that is a Capricorn thing, then they will dismiss you quite quickly. They don't want to entertain games, and they don't appreciate when you try and toy with them because they will show up for you. They take life seriously, and they take themselves seriously, which means they also take you seriously, and they expect you to act as a mature, grown, and responsible adult at all times. Now, if you're someone who's a little bit more spontaneous, like for example, in my personal experience with Capricorn, I like to do things on a whim. I can't stand a plan. I like just putting myself out there and having a fun time watching where life takes me. If you have that type of an attitude, they are going to contract. They may get on board depending on their other placements, but there's something inside of them that gets nervous, and they kind of like do this, they don't like it, and they might judge you, and they may call you impulsive. They don't appreciate impulsivity. They don't appreciate things that are done on a whim because it's not well thought out. You're not thinking of the consequences of your actions. What if you get lost? What if you run out of money? What if blah, 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 blah. They're going to name all the cautionary things that you didn't think about as you're trying to bungee jump off of a cliff. Piggybacking on that, they are risk averse. They don't like putting themselves in situations where they may fail, because what does that show about them? What does that prove about them? That means that they aren't this authoritarian character or authoritative character, depending on whichever one they subscribe to, high functioning, low functioning. They don't like to look stupid. They like to come off as someone who can manage the masses. And so they will avoid situations where there is a greater probability that they will fall on their face, or they have a hard time surrendering to the unknown. And they will criticize you for putting yourself in that situation until they see that you have been successful. So if you're someone who enjoys challenge, risk, and thrills, expect to have like a sit-down conversation where it's like, they're the principal and you're the student, and they're like, listen to me. This is the rules. This is what we do. Another thing they won't appreciate is if you don't take your life seriously. If you are not accomplishing things on a daily basis, or if you have nothing to prove for your day or your energy or your effort, they like to show their person off. They like to feel as if they have also won a prize. They are a prize, and so is their person. They like the power couple idea. And so if you are a little bit, if you're not as ambitious, or if your ambitions don't yield material, again, representations of success and accomplishment, they're not going to gravitate towards you. But all in all, they're about their business. And if you are with them, then you are their business. So they're focused on the long term. They want commitment. They will show up for you. They will want to provide for you. They will want to make you feel like your relationship is stable and your home space is stable and you guys can do whatever you like because you have the funds in the bank. Someone who is born with their sun in Pisces has a soul that came to this earth to break down all barriers that stand in the way of oneness. Now, Pisces has a reputation of not having boundaries or lacking boundaries or having porous boundaries. And when you hold in mind what their goal is, it kind of makes sense that it's hard for them to throw up that wall because it flies in the face of what they stand for. They want to bring love and unity to everything. It's a very gentle, loving, accepting soul and energy. Now, this doesn't mean they don't need boundaries, but it means that there's going to be resistance towards them. Once you explain to a Pisces that boundaries exist to protect them and to shield them, it can act as a barrier between people's energy and them. Then they'll be a little bit more on board with the program. Pisces is ruled by two planets, traditionally Jupiter, and modern day says Neptune. So you will find two different types of Pisces characters. A Jupiterian Pisces, it has a similar energy to Sagittarius, where they're expansive and big and larger than life, but it's via their emotions. And they are a little bit more positive than what you would expect. They want to play, they want to have fun. The other Neptunian Pisces is more introverted. The first one is extroverted. This one is introverted. It wants to look on the inner world, not the outer world, and it wants to expand there. And they're a little bit more reserved. They're focused on like their artwork behind closed doors and their poetry and the ways in which they love themselves. It's kind of like they take that same energy that Sagittarius would in the external world and they project it in their home space, in their private life. And with Neptune Pisces, you often see someone who has almost Capricornian expressions where they fall prey to depression because they get stuck in themselves. They get stuck in their own stories and the depression manifests. And when depression shows up in someone's life, it's the soul saying like, I don't want to play this role anymore. I don't want to be involved in this life anymore. And at that point, when you have that awareness, then Pisces can adjust their schedule and use their energy in different ways to erase the depression that they're currently managing. So keep that in mind. Which type of Pisces do you have? A Jupiterian Pisces or a Neptunian? Pisces is a water sign. It's the eldest water sign, but it's also the most sensitive and the most vulnerable. And the easiest way I can explain it is by the symbol for Pisces. It's a fish. A fish has no protective layer. It goes with the flow. It has no choice unless it's swimming upstream, exhausting itself, trying to fight the flow of life. But Scorpio has that stinger. Cancer has the crab shells and those little crabby hands to protect itself. Pisces is out in the open. It is the depository for the collective emotion. Now, they're not going to think about it that way. You're not going to think about it that way. In fact, a lot of what they're processing isn't something that's directly happened to them. Oftentimes, you'll find that when a Pisces is weighed down or they're feeling a strange mood for a reason that they can't explain, it's because of something that's happening out in the world. Now, when this happens, it's important that Pisces meditates because that is the safest, healthiest way for them to process their emotions. The alternative is that they're paying attention so closely to what's happening. They're paying attention to the mood, the vibes, the smells, the way that you're carrying yourself. They're paying attention to all the things that you aren't saying and try to integrate what you are saying. And it creates this glazed over look as if they're daydreaming. But really, they're collecting so much information that you are not even willingly communicating to them. Now, when this happens, it can create a feeling of overwhelm and they need to leave the room. They are an introverted sign. Specifically, just Sun in Pisces is an introverted sign. And so what it will do in those instances is it will literally escape the room. But then once it's in its own room, it will either meditate and process the emotion, or it will escape through some kind of substance. So smoking, drinking, being on the computer for hours on end, watching TV mindlessly, to the point where they're getting lost though. And so you can create this habit of constant escapism to the point where you're never really rooted or grounded. And so when I say meditation for Pisces, I don't mean, doing yoga, your fingers are like this, you're like in yoga pants, so religious about your practice. That works too. But what I'm saying is you need to bring yourself into a brain state where you can close the door, sit with yourself, and just feel and rinse. It's this internal process of you letting the waters that don't belong to you just whoosh, go right off your body. So Pisces are mystics. They're mild, right? They go with the flow. Now, because Pisces is a mutable sign, and this is true for all mutable signs, it's equally as important to look at where the sun is placed, like which house it's placed in, because the house will greatly affect this changeable energy. It will give it a more concrete flavor. But just purely Pisces energy is kind of a let go and let God type attitude. And what they're here to do is to develop a relationship with spirit. It could be religious, it could be spiritual, it could be whatever it is, but they are constantly striving to reach spiritual enlightenment. And the way they do that is by taking care of their body, taking care of themselves, but arriving to that space where they can prioritize themselves and their health before others. It's a journey. So this is someone who in relationships is willing to make the sacrifices to show up. They are caring. They're empathetic. They are good with emotions. They can sit with you when you are expressing, like they can see the most terrible behavior and not judge you because they see through to what you are made of, what your soul is, and how much you're struggling. And so Pisces can find themselves in situations with people who are dangerous or the bad boy, and they have this kind of phenomenon. This is true with Pisces men too, where they like the damsel in distress. They like saving somebody. And with women, it's like, well, if I just show up in this way, and if I just do this, then they'll change, and then the bad boy will be saved. The men are like, here's this damsel in distress. I'm going to help her because she needs me. And so that language can exist with a relationship with the sun in Pisces. So being the eldest water sign, they have the qualities and strengths of Cancer and Scorpio, but they're not focused on themselves. They're not specifically focused on one-on-one relationships. They're focused on humanity, the universe, the ethers. They're going as large and as big as you can imagine. They're leaving this plane in so many different ways. And so some deal breakers for a Pisces character is if you judge or if you try and stand in the way of their spiritual development. Now, I said earlier that they are sacrificing when it comes to relationships. This is not one of those areas where they're going to be sacrificing. A developed Pisces, if you are standing in the way of their spiritual journey, they will cut you off because that is what gives them fuel. That's what keeps them sane. And so if you're not supportive of whatever philosophy, astrology, right before you hello, they're going to be turned off. They're going to think you're closed-minded and they will feel unaccepted. And what makes that even worse is that they are so accepting that when it's not mirrored back to them, it makes it easier for them to step away. Another thing they don't like is if you're disrespectful to other people or if you treat other people poorly, specifically people who don't have the same resources that you have. So if you're rude to marginalized groups of people, or if you treat homeless people poorly or as if they're less than, they don't see, or they don't, they see it, but they don't subscribe to like the hierarchy that people are better than others. In their mind, everyone is the same. They're not going to bow to someone because of a specific title. They understand that when you walk out of your workplace, you guys are just humans face to face. And so if you insist that they take on the beliefs and that you subscribe to what the rest of society is doing, they're also going to turn away from you. And similar to that, if you are someone who lives and dies by your schedule, if you just do to do, if you want your day booked from the moment you wake up until the moment you go to sleep, Pisces is going to be repulsed by you in some way, shape, and form because you're not taking care of yourself. There is no spiritual life there. You're just functioning to function and you're forgetting to live and to exist. And Pisces needs the flexibility in a schedule in their day to go with the flow because their feelings change. Sometimes inspiration hits them at the most spontaneous time. And if you are like, no, you said you would be here and we have to do this and this and this and this, they're going to feel as if their creativity is being squandered, like you're taking away something quite precious, and it is precious for them. It's kind of hard to tell when you have reached a deal breaker with Pisces because they're not so confrontational, specifically just Sun in Pisces, all other aspects ignored. They're not confrontational in that way. They don't want to feel uncomfortable. It's more of like a silent, I got it. This is who you are. These are the decisions that you make. And they will just not make time for you, or they won't show up, or they'll cancel last minute. They show that they care with their presence. And so if they continuously reject your opportunity or your bid for attention, it's either that they are avoiding reality in general because they're dealing with something privately that they're probably not explaining to you, or you've just kind of left a sour taste in their mouth and they don't want to spend time with you. But overall, Pisces are really sweet, accepting lovers. And the gift that they bring to you is some kind of like spiritual awakening or some invitation to go higher, to elevate, to escape this reality that is so prominent and overwhelming. I will say, two fish, opposite directions. Pisces are known, similar to Gemini, they're known to have multiple marriages because they just change quite frequently. And there is this fickle quality and emotional instability, kind of like the ocean, always changing in and out, in and out. There is this quality to them. But that aside, it's not a reflection of you. That aside, when they are there and when they are with you, they want to gift you with whatever they have. That's just the way they are. All right, Capricorn and Pisces. This is a pretty good match because they are different energies, but what they bring to the table complements the other person naturally in a way that feels really good. So, for example, Pisces will appreciate that Capricorn is grounded, realistic, and practical because it doesn't want to focus so much on reality. Reality overwhelms Pisces, and Pisces is not the strongest when it comes to working out things in the quote unquote real world. It is focused on what's happening in the greater world, in the universe, in the stars, or in a spiritual practice of sorts. And so being with a Capricorn makes it easier for Pisces to stay grounded on a day-to-day basis because Capricorn will handle all of the things that Pisces will naturally want to avoid but are necessary to their overall health and well-being. Meanwhile, Capricorn will appreciate Pisces' emotional intelligence, their ability to explain Capricorn's emotions back to them in a way that makes them feel manageable rather than overwhelming. And Pisces is also incredibly flexible. So Capricorn is a leader. It likes making decisions. It likes being the person in charge. And Pisces is not out here measuring dicks. It typically goes with the flow. It doesn't really care what it's doing because it just wants to have a good time with his or her partner. And so Capricorn will appreciate Pisces' ability to change shape and just show up in whatever way that is required at that specific time. Both Capricorn and Pisces are universally oriented signs. And this is the way that they are compatible, but they don't even recognize it because it happens on an unconscious, automatic kind of level. But they are both focused on what's happening in the world, but in different ways. Capricorn is watching the news, taking notes, watching potentially the stock market, but they're paying attention to things that are measurable and how those measurements are affecting people across the globe. Pisces is sitting there watching the news, feeling everything, literally everything for everyone. They are the depository of emotions for the collective, but that is what they're focused on. If either one of them, Pisces or Capricorn, were dating, say, a socially oriented sign like Leo, they would be like, why are you always focused on yourself? Don't you recognize that there is a whole world of people out there struggling? And so they won't ever have that kind of argument because they're working on things that relate to the world at large. Another positive is that Capricorn and Pisces as sun signs exclusively. Now, house placement matters, moon matters, everything matters. But if we're just looking at the sun signs, these are two introverted energies, which means that when they go out into the world, they lose energy, and when they restore their energy by coming back home and resting. Now, if you are a Pisces or Capricorn, this sounds natural to you, like, duh, Miss Mia. But this is not the same for everybody. Air and fire signs wake up empty, When they go home, they get drained. They recharge by being out in the world. And so thankfully, you are with someone who will leave the house in pretty much the same condition and want to come home once the battery is dying down. As with every relationship, there definitely are some challenge points. So let's start off by talking about things that Capricorn will have a problem with Pisces about. Number one, and this goes back to the motives. Capricorn is here to work hard, and oftentimes with working hard and being ruled by Saturn, there is an emphasis on boundaries. And Pisces comes into this world to dissolve barriers and to create oneness. And so here we have the king of boundaries and the queen of breaking them down. And you can see how this can cause friction for Capricorn. Capricorn can find Pisces to be naive. They can see how this delicate, angelic, dare I say, soul can be injured in the real world. They will want Pisces to build boundaries because Pisces can lead themselves into toxic work environments. They can surround themselves with people who will want to take advantage of them. And because Pisces is so empathetic and because they're looking at the soul most often, they can position themselves around pretty dangerous or sketchy people because they understand why the villain is the villain. Capricorn is like, who gives a fuck? That person is still problematic. And so the naivete that comes with a Pisces, Capricorn does not favor. Number two, because Capricorn tends to be so overwhelmed by everything that it's doing, its emotional body shuts down and it makes it vulnerable and moody in a way that it doesn't recognize. And when Pisces and Capricorn are not getting along, Pisces is not always above emotional manipulation. Sometimes they know exactly what to say to get to push Capricorn's button, and they just may do it. And so Capricorn can find Pisces' emotional intelligence to be a weapon at times. Number three, Pisces has a legacy. I don't know if I should call it a legacy, but they have a legacy of playing the victim in their own life. And Capricorn understands inherently that, you know, being a victim is a temporary state of being. It's not a life sentence, and it's not something that it's not the greatest work of your life, right? And sometimes when Pisces is feeling down and out, or if they have other things going on, they can revert back to that pattern of, oh, the world is hurting me, or oh, this person hurt me, or oh, this person mishandled me. Capricorn doesn't like that. Take accountability for your shit and move on. A couple of things Pisces doesn't like about Capricorn. I would say the biggest thing is the fear-based mentality. Capricorn tends to be tight and constricted, and it loves saying no until there is a reason to say yes. And oftentimes the reason why they do this is because they don't want to go into something unprepared. They don't want to take risks. They don't want to submit to the unknown. And when Pisces hears that, it's like, if only you trusted yourself, if only you were acting from like love for yourself, then you would say yes to these things. And so it can be heavy on a Pisces spirit to be around someone who can easily fall into doom and gloom. Number two, Capricorn being an earth sign does not let shit go. They will hold on to things until they die. Sometimes they tell stories from like 2 decades ago. It's like, dude, that's not even real. Like, that doesn't even exist anymore. The only reason why that exists is because you remember it. And Pisces is, especially with Saturn going through Pisces now in 2023, there is this pull to be in the present moment and to drop the shit from the past. Both Pisces and Capricorn being introverted signs and being self-reflective and all of those qualities, they both have an affinity towards the past and not so much the future. And so I can see why Capricorn gets stuck there, but it's heavy for a Pisces spirit. Number three, Capricorn is very much into power games and what the hierarchy, and there's a structure to everything, and there's someone at the top and there's someone at the bottom and there's someone in the middle. And Pisces just views everyone as being human. It doesn't treat anybody differently just because of a specific title. I think Pisces understands that no matter what position you have at work, the moment you leave those 4 walls, you guys are both just humans. And Capricorn may adjust their behavior depending on who they're talking to, and Pisces might find that inauthentic. Capricorn is represented by the devil in tarot for a reason. It is a jerk sometimes. It can be cold and detached and withdrawn, and it can genuinely hurt Pisces' feelings. It's like, wow, did you have to go for that punch below the belt? No. You know, Pisces, it's very simple to communicate that you are unsatisfied with the Pisces, you can just literally sit them down and be like, you disappointed me. Capricorn will take it to the next level. You know, you have never once, blah, 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 blah. Oh, stop, cut. And the last one for Pisces, I'll just call it like a irritating, acute irritation, is Capricorn uses absolutist language when it's frustrated. You always do this. You never do this. Don't you ever say that to me? It's like, first of all, are you okay? And secondly, it's hard to grant credit to someone who's using absolutist language because nothing is always. You know, there isn't anything that is never. And so it's just comical. But truthfully, those are all small irritations. They're manageable. And it's my fundamental belief in astrology that, you know, irregardless of sign, you can be with whomever you choose. It's just your job to make the best of it, you know, to accept differences, to embrace them, to use them in whatever way that you can, and to support each other. So if you would like to learn more, because this is literally the tip of the iceberg, if you would like to learn more, book a session with me and we can go into every which aspect you got going on, baby girl. Okay? Oh, find me at onerising.com. Toodles.